is the last part of motion, and this is about stopping distances. Very often you get a question in an exam and it asks you about stopping distances, and in particular it might mention thinking distances and braking distances. So if you can see here, you can see a motorcyclist coming along a road, and over here, I don't know if you can see or not, there's a little cat, and so the motorcyclist has to stop to make sure he doesn't hit the cat. So there are two things that happen here. First of all, he sees the cat and he has to react. And that length of time that it takes him to react is called his reaction time. But what that creates is a distance that he travels before he actually brakes on the bike. And that's called the thinking distance. So he'll travel a certain distance before he actually brakes. After that, once he brakes, then there's a braking distance, and hopefully he's going to get stopped before he hits the cat. So the total stopping distance in all is if you add your thinking distance to the braking distance, and that should give you the total stopping distance. So there's a few definitions here, and hopefully you can see them all. It says stopping distance, friction, thinking distance and braking distance. So the stopping distance is a distance that the car travels in total, and that's the sum of the thinking distance and the braking distance. So we're going to put an arrow down to this one here. The next one is friction, and friction is a force, as we know, so we're looking for something along here that says force, and there's one that says force. One of the forces the road exerts on the tyres as a car is stopping, and so that's our frictional force. The next one is thinking distance, and thinking distance, if you remember, is the length of time it takes for the driver to react, and it's the distance a car travels whilst before the brakes are applied, and so it's going to be this one here. And so there's only one left, and that's the braking distance, and the braking distance of the car then is the distance that the car travels whilst it is braking. And so we'll just use this blue pen up to here. Okay, so you're really thinking about reaction time when you're thinking about thinking distance, and that distance you travel depends on the speed you're travelling at and how long it takes you to react. Right, what factors affect braking and thinking distances? Now we need to look at the factors which affect braking and thinking distance. So your thinking distance is going to depend on how you're feeling at the time when you're driving, whether you're under the influence of any kind of medication or whatever, or if you're very, very tired. And that's going to affect your reaction time. And so obviously you're going to have a longer thinking distance if you are very tired and so on. So the things that might affect that are medication, okay, and the rest of these, drugs and alcohol. And this is of course why we're advised not to drink and drive. And tiredness, there's a third one. Then all these other things are going to affect how long it actually takes, or what the distance you travel during your braking time. And so the speed of the car, the road conditions, the conditions of your tyres, and that's why you can get penalty points in your licence if your tyres are not in good enough shape, and the condition of your brakes. One thing that might affect both thinking distance and braking distance is of course the speed that you're travelling at. So I'm going to put it over here as well. Because if you're travelling faster and then you have a slower reaction time, you're obviously going to have a longer thinking distance. So a couple of questions in this topic. A car's moving along an open road, suddenly a sheep walks onto the road. What do we call the distance a car travels before the driver puts her foot on the brakes? So before they put their foot on the brakes, we're talking about the reaction time there. And so that distance is called the thinking distance. Name one factor that could increase the distance a car travels in this time. So there's loads of factors. It could be that the driver is tired, that they're under the influence of drugs or alcohol, or some kind of medication, or how quickly the car is actually travelling in the first place. How quickly the car is travelling. The braking distance is 35 metres for the car. If the total stopping distance is 50 metres, how far did the car travel before the driver put their foot on the brakes? So we know that the total stopping distance is 50 metres, but only 35 metres of that is actual braking distance. So we're looking for the distance the car travelled before the driver put their foot on the brakes. So that's obviously 50 minus 35 equal to 15 metres.